Bonjour et bienvenue à notre réunion de midi. Aujourd'hui, je vous offre un nouveau type de voix. Donc voilà, on va voir si ça va tenir jusqu'au bout de notre midday. Suite à la réunion de chefs de cabinet qui a eu lieu ce matin, je peux vous communiquer l'agenda de la réunion du collège de demain. Exceptionnellement demain, même si ce n'est pas une semaine de plénière Strasbourg, ainsi que les événements de presse que nous sommes en train de préparer pour vous. Donc, demain, le collège est censé approuver le paquet élargissement 2025. La haute représentante Callas et la commissaire Kos se rendront en salle de presse vers 2h15 pour le présenter si tout se passe selon les timings prévus. Avant cela, à 10h, nous organiserons un briefing technique off the record au cours duquel vous pourrez poser vos questions à nos experts. Le collège abordera également un plan européen pour le réseau ferroviaire à grande vitesse, ainsi que le plan d'investissement pour un transport durable. Et ces deux initiatives seront présentées par le vice-président exécutif Fito et le commissaire Tzitzikostas mercredi à 10h. Donc on aura la présentation de l'agenda du collège sur 2 jours, demain et mercredi. Séparément de l'agenda du collège, nous organiserons aussi un briefing technique off the record sur les préparatifs de la COP 30 à midi demain. Donc cela signifie, mercredi. Cela signifie que mercredi, nous n'aurons pas de réunion midday de midi, mais plutôt ces 2 événements de presse à la place. Mais si vous n'avez pas suivi tous les détails de ce que je viens de dire, nous allons bien sûr et comme d'habitude distribuer les détails via nos canaux en ligne et par écrit. And now, before giving you the floor, I would like to welcome several groups of visitors that are joining us today. I understand you are students from various origins, from Latvia, from Germany, from Poland, Switzerland, and you are here in the context of a study visit organized by our representation in Latvia. And you are not alone, because we also have students from Brussels University, and we have regional journalists from Spain in a visit organized by the representation, as well as journalists from Georgia in a visit organized by the External Action Service. It's a privilege and honor to have you here today from so many different places across Europe. Let me wish you a nice time with us here in the press room and in Brussels in general. Warm welcome. And with this, we now may open the floor to questions. Yes, Jorge.
Thank you, Paula. It's a question on the EU-China talks on Friday, and also the information that the US shared over the weekend on in the fact sheet. So in the readout we got, you said that you spoke about the regime of general license with the Chinese, but as far as we understand, I mean, there was no outcome on this point. With the US said in its fact sheet that China will issue a general license valid for exports of rare earth and other materials, which will benefit the US end users and their suppliers around the world. So my question is whether, I mean, to what extent the EU companies will benefit from this concession given to the US. If not, what you have agreed with the Chinese when it comes to the general licenses, and if there is no result over the week, I mean, during the talks on Friday, when do you expect to come back to this to address the competitive disadvantage? Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. a question that we've been following with attention for the past days and on which indeed Olaf will be able to give us more details. Olaf.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks for your question, Jorge. Look, we're, as we said, our understanding is that the Chinese suspension applies to the entire world, or rather the decision to not implement the export controls, and we continue to engage with China to understand the precise modalities of that. But that's our understanding.
Yes, you have a follow-up, Jorge.
So that's the agreement with China that refers to the October measures, which are the most stringent ones, if I understood well. But then apparently what the US-China agreed as well, and that came out over the weekend, is that there will be general licenses over a period of a year as well, and that will affect, the April controls. So my question is whether you have agreed to that as well with the Chinese, or if not, if you understand that you will benefit also of this general license regime. I'm not talking about the October measures.
Yes, Olaf.
Yeah, thanks for your follow-up. As I said, we're engaging with the Chinese authorities. I don't have more information to provide at this time.
Thank you. Other questions to Olaf? Yes, in the back there.
Yes, Peggy Collin for Euronews. Can you tell us whether Nexperia was discussed on Friday during the meeting with the Chinese officials? Is it part of the trade truce, or is there still some restrictions on the export of chips? Thank you.
Yeah, it's in the same context, Olaf.
Thanks for your question, Peggy. So I'm not going to provide more detail on the meeting that took place on Friday beyond the readout we issued. What I can say on Nexperia is that the Commission has been in regular contact with all sides to try and support a swift and effective solution to this question. So, as we told you last week, a number of meetings took place in person and virtual with all sides, including direct engagement by Commissioner Šefčovič and on Friday by EVP Virkkunen. So what has happened since is a stated commitment by the Chinese authorities to ensure a safe supply of chips, and we're now engaging with the Chinese authorities to fully understand the operational details. I can't say more for the moment, but our intention is to debrief Member State ambassadors in more detail on this on Wednesday.
Thank you, Olaf. Yes, Jen.
Jawab Pishelli, Bloomberg News. Not 100% sure it's for you necessarily, but on this topic, has the CHIPS Act task force discussed the matter?
So I can bring Thomas up for this. Maybe we could take other questions.
And there is conveniently another podium lectern, so there we go. So now you can address on the CHIPS Act.
Thank you to both of you. Hi, Jan. So yes, I can confirm that the task force discussed the Nexperia case on Friday. And what are the next steps now? Member states, because, let me give you first a general context. The CHIPS Act says that you can indeed activate the crisis mechanism if such an event potentially is taking place. So what did we do? We had a task force meeting on Friday. What are the next steps? Member states have now until this Friday, so the 7th, to provide feedback. What kind of feedback we want to understand from our member states? How did this impact different sectors at national level? And then we would have a second task force meeting and we would take it from there.
Good, thank you. Thomas, so let's stay still with questions for Olaf. Yeah.
Hello, thank you. Thomas Mann-Nielsen at Euractiv. It's more a clarificatory question, Olaf. So your understanding right now is the export restrictions that China announced on October 9th, their suspension for 1 year, that should apply for EU companies as well. That's your understanding. But then the less stringent export controls that China announced on the 4th of April that have already impacted European industries, your understanding is they remain in place and you're still negotiating with the Chinese to deal with that particular issue. Is that right to say? Thanks.
Yeah, precisely. That's the purpose of the meeting that took place on Friday. The clue is in the name, the export controls dialogue, that we're trying to address all aspects of any restrictions or hindrances to the export from China to the EU of rare earths, components, other inputs that are necessary for our industry. We've made this a priority issue since the EU-China summit in July, and we're engaging with the Chinese authorities now to have full clarity on that and to ensure that they will honour the commitments they made to ensure that there are no restrictions in place.
And we have still some questions for Olaf. Jorge in the back.
Yes, Jorge in the back. Olaf, 2 questions. The engagement right now with China, is it based on the commitments that you made in July, basically this upgraded mechanism that the president announced, or is this mechanism basically dead and you try to do something different? And second, does this engagement include the tariffs that you applied on Chinese electric vehicles? Is this part of the talks as well? Thank you.
So, to your first question, Jorge, and thanks for the questions. I mean, the upgraded export control dialogue is what happened on Friday. So there was a commitment in July that there would be an accelerated structure to engage on these very difficult questions, and it was a meeting of that structure that took place on Friday. And by the way, there's ongoing contact within that structure, but this was the first in-person meeting, which is a substantial thing in its own way. And on your second question, no, the electric vehicles issue was not discussed. That's a separate work stream, and the same principles apply, if you like, that if an effective alternative solution can be proposed by the Chinese and shown to be workable, then we can look at that.
Or if I can summarize from Olaf's replies now to 3 questions on the topic, I think in these dialogues we're addressing both the short-term challenges as well as the more structural issues that China had announced later in October. So it's really meant to address both aspects of it, the short-term and the mid- and longer-term structural measures that China may have envisaged. Now, Jorge in the front.
Thank you. Sorry for coming back again. First, when do you plan to have a new meeting with the Chinese? Secondly, what are you aiming for in the context of the April decision? Do you want just to speed up the approval process, given that Sefcovic said that only around half of the licenses are given, or do you want a general license like the one that the US got? And finally, given that the president said that all options are on the table and the result that you have obtained so far is suboptimal, whether the trade options track continues to progress, to move forward, and if you don't obtain the solution that you want, whether you will impose those trade measures and when. Thank you.
It's a nice attempt to get more information out of the readout last week, on which Olaf already said that he will not be able to give more details, unless you want to comment on the reading on where we are in the discussions, because Jorge provided an own interpretation of how the discussions are going.
Maybe just two small additional comments. On your question as to when the next meeting will take place, I don't have that information. I'll have to double check and come back to you. But I mean, as I said, the in-person meeting, that's not the only contact. I mean, there's ongoing contact, including at political level. And on the outcome we want to achieve is very clear. We want there to be a stable and reliable trade supply, if you like, of rare earth minerals and other critical inputs from China to the EU. How we achieve that is that's the means by which we achieve that we can discuss, but that's what we want to achieve, and I don't think I'll say more on it today.
Now I see Finbar, which is probably still on this question online, or on this topic rather.
Same topic. So I missed the very start. so apologies if it's repeating, but was Commissioner Berkman aware that the US and China had reached some sort of an arrangement on Nexperia before she met with her Chinese the company on Friday? And when you had the export controls dialogue with the Chinese government on Friday also, had there been consultations? Were you aware of what had been agreed between the US and China in Busan, which was only subsequently revealed publicly on Saturday when the US put out its fact sheet? I'm just trying to get an idea of at what point there was any consultation, what the European Union side was aware of before it went into these big meetings on Friday. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Finbar. Look, I know it's nice to have who told what to whom and at what precise time for your stories, but we're not obliged to provide that type of information, nor is it necessarily helpful for what we're trying to convey here, which is that we're trying to achieve an outcome. Meetings took place last week in order to achieve that outcome. Of course, we are in contact with our global partners, including the US, on a regular basis because these issues affect us all. Therefore, it makes sense that we coordinate as far as possible. So we're not going to go into who said what to whom and when now. I'll simply repeat that we have specific objectives we're trying to achieve here for the benefit of EU industry, and we're working hard on all fronts to achieve them.
Thank you. I think this concludes the questions on this topic. Other questions on different topics to Olaf? No? Then we move on. Other questions? Yes, Angie.
Hello, Angela Scoogens from TVP World. The High Representative Kaya Kallas met the CIA Director John Ratcliffe on Tuesday last week. What was the meeting about, and will they meet again? Thank you.
Anita, I look at Anita, who tells me that we do not have further details on that reported meeting. Other questions? Yes, Marco.
Yes, thank you very much. Marco Bresolin, Italian newspaper La Stampa. Again, a question on foreign affairs. Seeing the recent developments between the escalation of tension between US and Venezuela and the possible US attack on Venezuela, is the EU concerned about this escalation, and would the EU eventually support an US initiative in Venezuela? And second question related to that, do you plan to discuss this issue next weekend in the EU CELAC summit? Thank you.
I look at my foreign affairs colleagues. Anita, our views on what is happening in Venezuela.
Thank you. I don't have further comments on this. I would like to ask you to refer to the U.S. authorities. Other than that, of course, we share the goal of dismantling organized crime. All actions need to abide by international law.
And on the question whether this will be raised at CELAC, I cannot prejudge on what issues may be discussed in the context of the CELAC summit. Other questions on foreign affairs? Yes.
Thank you, Euroscope, Georgia, Tamara Nutsubidze. I want to ask, how do you estimate the daily detentions of Georgian people regarding the peaceful demonstrations? And we also already have first criminal case on this situation. And today, Shalva Papuashvili made a statement that morally and political responsibility on that detentions lies on Ambassador of EU to Georgia, on Foreign Affairs Minister of Finland, and on you also, Anita. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I think best would be for the Georgian authorities to look in the mirror and face the reality, which is the fact that they are putting in place a very repressive regime that goes against peaceful people, against media, against journalists. Once more, if you're secure in your democracy, in your way of conducting yourself, you do not feel the need to jail your opponents. You do not feel the need to jail innocent people. That being said, we are against all forms of violence throughout, but we do encourage the authorities to come back to the dialogue with their own society and to ensure there is no further escalation of this violence.
Thank you, Anita. Are there foreign affairs questions? Yes, Irini.
Hey, Anita, I'm trying to find more info about Kallas visiting Cyprus on Wednesday. Can you enlighten me on this, please?
Sorry, you're speaking about the High Representative mission to Cyprus, right? Yes, so this is a mission that is prepared in the context of the upcoming presidency, but also as a part of the engagement of the High Representative along the main topics, be it Gaza or on Ukraine and our support towards Ukraine.
Thank you, Anita, for those elements. Yes, you have a follow-up, Irini.
Will she meet? Do we have the agenda, please?
Agenda and Media Advisory will be coming up soon, right ahead of the mission as per custom.
Good. To be shared in due time. Other foreign affairs questions? Yeah, here.
Thanks very much. It's Rosie Birchard for DW. It's on foreign affairs, but I'm not sure if it's for Anita or Anwar. Just if you could give us your response to the latest developments in Tanzania. Thank you very much.
Will be for Anwar. Let me just make sure, Anita, if we still have any question to you. I have Nikolai Nielsen. Sorry, we'll get back to you on Tanzania, but just trying to see if those questions online would be for Anita. Nikolai? No? No. Then we have one hand left online, which is Tommaso. Is it for Anita?
Yes, many thanks. Tommaso Gallotti, Adrian Cross. It's just a follow-up to the question asked by my colleague Marco Brasolin. It's about Venezuela. It's just a curiosity. Would a U.S. strike against Venezuela be in line with international law, in the opinion of EU, or not? Many thanks.
Listen, Tommaso, we will not enter into hypothetical scenarios. It's in no one's in no one's interest. Nikolai, is it a question also for Anita? Nikolai Nielsen.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I had a question on Libya. So there's a weird echo going on, but okay. The Libyan government in Tripoli has been suspending the work of international NGOs since last March. And, this crackdown has been, taking place amid EU support to the Libyan authorities for migration control. So doesn't this sort of raise doubts about your leverage or your commitment to humanitarian standards in your engagement with the Libyans? I suppose, to what extent is reinstating the presence of these international NGOs a priority for you? Thanks.
Okay, we'll take this question, which will be for Guillaume, and then come back to the question on Tanzania for Anwar. They are still foreign affairs related, also the one on Libya. Guillaume.
Sorry, if you could repeat quickly your questions, because I had some issues on my side and I could not listen to everything.
Nikolai, do you mind repeating also?
Sure.
Go ahead.
No worries. So, I mean, the Libyan government in Tripoli has suspended the work of international INGOs since March. And this happened at the same time that the EU was engaging with the Libyans when it comes to migration control. So in that context, I just wanted to know what your leverage or commitment really is to humanitarian standards in your engagement with the Libyans, and to what extent reinstating the presence of these INGOs is a priority for you. Thanks.
Thank you. I mean, I can only recall the position that I have expressed many times when it comes to Libya and how we work on the ground to improve the situation when it comes to migration management. So, we have this comprehensive approach to migration, and really, we make every effort when it comes to our contacts with the Libyan authorities to help them really set up this comprehensive and right-based migration governance and management system. We have done so over the past few years, also with implementing partners on the ground, as you said. We continue to have contacts with the authorities and also our partners on the ground to improve the situation. Recently, we had a technical discussion here in Brussels, and it was really in this context as well that we continue to engage with them. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and Anwar has a few more elements regarding this question that can complement Guillaume's answer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paola. To complement what my colleague Guillaume has said, the European Union regrets the decision taken by the Libyan authorities ordering Doctors Without Borders to leave the country. The EU delegation in Tripoli is consulting with EU member states, representatives and UNSMIL to discuss possible coordinated actions.
Okay, so that's clear. Mose, you also have a question on Libya?
Yes, thank you very much, Paula. Mose Upload, Assistance. There's a related question. I would like to ask if the Commission by now has received any explanation about the investigation carried out by the Libyan authorities concerning, you remember, this incident in the Mediterranean Sea, I think last summer, when the Libyan Coast Guard was shooting at the rescue vessel with migrants. That happened in international water. And I remember that when we were asked about that, you said you were waiting for, let's say, explanation from Libya before taking any position, whether it was legal or not. Have you by now received that explanation? Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Guillaume, do we have more elements there?
Yes, I mean, at the time of the incidents you referred to, we expressed our position very clearly. And we said, and I can recall that all parties to a search and rescue operation must respect international law and international maritime law. When it comes to the investigations, indeed, the Libyan authorities are now doing an investigation, and this is all I can say at this stage.
Good. Okay. Other questions? Now we have the benefit of having both Guillaume and Anwar up here. So Noureddin, I guess it will be for Anwar, but we'll see if there are more questions for Guillaume afterwards.
Merci, Paula. Yes, it's a couple of questions to Anwar. One on Iran and the European Union. Since the snapback has been activated last month, is there any contact between the European Union and Iran on whether on bilateral relations, whether on nuclear talks? Because the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Iran is saying many times that they are receiving letters from the United States about the resuming negotiations. Is there something new on your side? My second question is on Sudan. And according to European media and the newspaper Le Monde today, for example, quoting another Italian newspaper, that in last July, the Iranian operation in the Mediterranean Sea has escorted or controlled a ship with a lot of armament going to Benghazi, to the eastern part of Libya. That's one thing. Iran is responsible for not allowing arms going to Libya, arms. But this cargaison was intended to go to Sudan, mainly to the FSR forces. Can you double check that? Can you tell us if you are aware already about that happening in last July? This is among many things about, let's say, the European Union lack of action to or member states not implementing the United Nations resolutions and not allowing the both sides to get arms in Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you, Noureddin. Let's point to the action by the EU. Anwar, if you can remind us of what action has been taken in both in relation to Iran and then in relation to Sudan.
Precisely, thank you, Paola. First on Iran, the European Union has always been clear that Iran must never be allowed to acquire or develop a nuclear weapon, and that it must comply with its legally binding nuclear safeguard obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, together with fully resuming cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and this without delay. It is also the position of the EU that a sustainable solution to the Iranian nuclear issue can only be achieved through negotiation and diplomacy. The EU will continue to contribute to all diplomatic efforts in this direction, and the High Representative will remain engaged with all parties, including Iran, in support of a political and diplomatic effort to find a negotiating solution in line with the reinstated UN Security Council resolutions. Now, on Sudan, I will here again reiterate our position on the conflict that is raging for far too long, also in light of the recent seizure of El Fasher, Darfur's capital, by the Rapid Support Forces, which has marked a dangerous turning point in the war, threatening to further worsen an already dire humanitarian situation. We call on all parties to immediately de-escalate in accordance with the UN Security Council Resolution 2736. The Rapid Support Forces bear responsibility for protecting civilians in areas under their control, including aid workers, local responders, and journalists. Humanitarian organizations must be granted immediate, safe, and unconditional access to all those in need. Civilians wishing to leave the city must be allowed to do so safely. We also support international efforts to ensure accountability for all those responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. In terms of figures, in 2025, the EU has allocated more than 270 million euros to address the humanitarian crisis in Sudan and its impact on neighboring countries, making it the largest EU humanitarian funding package in Africa. We are also providing funding to organizations collecting evidence of war crimes as part of a broader effort to ensure accountability for those responsible. So this is what we are doing in terms of actions on the ground in the context of Sudan to address your question, Nourdine.
Thank you. Noureddin, you have a follow-up?
Anwar, but in relation with Iran, did you have, since the international community, let's say the Western countries plus the European Union, activate the snapback mechanism, do you have contacts with the Iranian side on the possibility to resume negotiation? In these possible talks, do you see any role for the European Union? Because what you answered is quite clear, but this is the principal position. What my question is, do you have regular contacts? Have you been contacted by the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Iran? Did you send yourself, I mean the European Union, message to the Iranian side as the Americans are doing? And my question on Sudan was related specifically on the possibility that Iranian operation has allowed arms to go to western part of Libya and possibly from there to Sudan, I mean to the FSR forces.
Thank you. On your second point, we will revert back bilaterally to you because that's quite technical. On Iran, I think the answer was quite clear when I said that the High Representative remains engaged with all relevant parties, including Iran. Full stop.
Good. So, Other questions on foreign affairs? I see Pierre Benazé online.
Fonctionne?
Yeah.
Ouais. J'ai plusieurs questions. La première, c'est est-ce que l'accord survenu aux Nations Unies va changer quelque chose dans les relations bilatérales entre l'Union européenne et le Maroc, maintenant qu'on a un accord en vue sur le statut futur du Sahara occidental?
On commence alors par cela. Oui, Anouar.
L'Union européenne se félicite de la prolongation du mandat de la MINURSO jusqu'au 31 octobre 2026 et se déclare prête à soutenir les négociations menées par l'envoyé personnel du secrétaire général, Staffan de Mistura, conformément à la résolution du Conseil de sécurité des Nations unies. L'Union européenne réaffirme son ferme soutien au processus politique mené par les Nations unies visant à parvenir à un règlement juste, durable et mutuellement acceptable du différend sur la base de la proposition d'autonomie du Maroc et conformément à la Charte des Nations unies. Maintenant, quand il s'agit de la position commune et des États membres, la position commune de l'Union européenne est sans préjudice des positions individuelles des États membres de l'Union européenne.
Ok, Pierre, tu avais annoncé plus qu'une question. Tu veux revenir avec d'autres questions? Non? Pierre, tu es satisfait? Bon.
Non, ça ne s'allumait pas. Je serais très content d'entendre la réponse à la question qu'a posée Rosie tout à l'heure sur la Tanzanie, mais j'attendrai qu'elle puisse la reposer. J'ai une question spécifiquement sur, puisqu'on parlait du Venezuela, les menaces américaines envers le Nigeria inspirent-elles une réaction du SEAE?
Merci Pierre. Quand il s'agit du Nigeria, nous avons pris note des déclarations de l'administration américaine. Nous exprimons notre solidarité avec toutes les communautés et familles touchées par la violence, y compris les récentes attaques à grande échelle dans la ceinture méridionale au Nigeria et dans le nord-est. Nous réaffirmons notre engagement en faveur de la liberté de religion et de croyance et la protection de toutes les communautés, en particulier les minorités, et soulignons notre attachement à la grande partie de la population nigériane et une coexistence pacifique au-delà des différences géographiques, ethniques, politiques ou religieuses. Nous reconnaissons les nombreux facteurs à l'origine de la violence au Nigeria, notant que la religion n'étant que l'un d'entre eux, et ce, dans certains cas. Quant à l'Union européenne, nous coopérons avec les autorités nigérianes compétentes et mettons en œuvre un soutien multiforme au Nigeria afin de prévenir la violence, d'encourager la consolidation de la paix et d'aider les victimes de la violence et des déplacements forcés.
Voilà pour notre position pour ce qui concerne le Nigeria. Pierre, c'est tout de ta part?
Non, juste une question de suivi. Quand tu dis soutien multiforme, est-ce que tu as des exemples?
En termes de soutien multiforme, étant donné que ça prend plusieurs formes et plusieurs facettes, on va devoir mobiliser plusieurs collègues et on reviendra vers toi avec une vue pleine et consolidée de ce soutien multiforme. Merci.
Voilà, on va revenir avec des exemples concrets, si je te comprends bien. Donc, avec cela, on passe à la question qu'on avait avant concernant la Tanzanie. If you want to recall your question on Tanzania, so that we can also, for the sake of the recording, have it together, the question and the answer. Go ahead.
Sure, it's Rosie Bircher for DW. Can you give us your response and comment on the latest in Tanzania on the situation? Thank you.
The European Union takes note of the proclamation by the Independent National Electoral Commission of Tanzania and the Zanzibar Electoral Commission of the results of the presidential elections held on the 29th of October. The EU is very concerned with the events that occurred throughout the election day and that are still ongoing, including violence, internet shutdown, as well as report of irregularities in the election process in some places. Reliable reports of large number of fatalities and significant injuries are of extreme concern. The EU urges the authorities to exercise maximum restraint to preserve human lives.
And that's on Tanzania. Other questions on foreign affairs to Anwar? We have still one question here. Go ahead.
Hello, Thomas Van Nelson at Euractiv. It's a question about Sudan and a comment that you made last week. I think it was you, Anwar. So we're ready to use all diplomatic tools, including restrictive measures, to achieve a peaceful outcome in Sudan. So does this mean that the Commission is considering further sanctions on Sudan or not? Thanks. And if so, which particular restrictive measures is the Commission considering? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Indeed, part of our toolbox and instruments are restrictive measures, which are also commonly known as sanctions. So this answers your question, but I don't have anything to further add to the statement I've made last week. So we'll leave it to that. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions to Anwar? I have one here. Yeah.
Hello, I would like to ask on the agreement with Morocco, that is, when is it going to be shared with the European Parliament so that it can be voted? And another question, on the agreement with Morocco, on the amendment of the Euro-Mediterranean Agreement, there was a chapter where the European Commission said it would give some kind of aid to the region on energy and so on. Could you specify what kind of aid it would be and so forth, or when is it going to be commented? Thank you.
And can you just remind us your name and...
Xavi Viraltella from ABC in Spain.
From ABC, okay. Good. So can we provide more elements? This would be again for Guillaume on the Morocco. I mean, on the first, I guess we don't have much to say on the first question. Go ahead, Guillaume.
I don't have a specific information to provide when it comes to the project. I mean, you mentioned energy, right? Yeah. When it comes to energy, what I can say is that we have already been working with Morocco on different areas of mutual interest. Energy is one of them, but also others such as migration, security, and so on. So this is really a wish to continue and deepen this relationship with Morocco. Recently, we adopted the Pact on the Mediterranean, which precisely also gives an agenda and an offer to all the countries in the southern neighborhood, so the southern Mediterranean countries, to work together on mutual interests and priorities. Energy is one of them. So now we'll be discussing with all partners in the region, Morocco included. We'll have soon, we'll hope to have this document endorsed by our partner countries. And then on the basis of this discussion we'll have with them earlier next year, actually, we'll have an action plan which actually lists all the different initiatives that we have. And on this basis, then we'll have more specific information on the projects that will be supported by the EU together with partner countries. So when it comes really to the precise question on energy, it's a bit too early at this stage, but we'll communicate those details as we have them in the future.
Good. Other questions to either Anwar or Guillaume? I don't see any. So, dear gentlemen, you had your fair share. Let's move on with different topics. Go ahead.
Anupria from Euractiv. I have a question for Thomas regarding Shein and the sex doll scandal in France that took place this weekend, where the French authorities found that Shein was selling the said products in the market. I had a question basically from the DSA perspective, because Shein is under the scope of the DSA, and after what unfolded in France regarding these products, and the fact that the economy minister was interviewed this morning and said that it might lead to blocking or banning Shein in France eventually. Has the Commission opened any new investigations, or what is the response regarding pending DSA investigations against Shein? Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas, update on the investigations regarding Shein.
Yes, and thank you, Anupriya. So, of course, the Commission is fully aware of the action undertaken in France by the French Consumer Protection Authority against Shein over the sale of child-like sex dolls. The sale was reported to the Paris Prosecutor's Office and to ARCOM, so there is a national investigation going on in France. I will not go into that territory. Now, what I can say from a Commission's point of view and from a DSA point of view is, of course, Shein is designated under the DSA. The e-commerce platform has to comply with the rules under the DSA. This includes, of course, assessing and mitigating risks coming from their service, from their e-commerce platforms, including on illegal products. Several steps were already taken by the Commission. The latest one was in February, if I'm not mistaken, of this year, including on illegal products. So, of course, Shein is under strict scrutiny from our side. We do not hesitate if we need to take actions, but for now, this case is ongoing in France, and we're, of course, in close touch with our French counterparts on this.
Good. Thank you, Thomas. Other questions for Thomas? Does not seem to be the case. Other topics for today's midday? Yes, Vitaly. Today we get your name right.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I have two questions. One on reparation loan. Do you have this option? And do you have maybe not reparation loan, but option for long-term financial support for Ukraine? And do you have some calculation, prognosis, what consequences could be in case of not adoption this decision, and maybe it hamper other program of financial support for Ukraine? Thank you.
Thank you, Vitaly. I think we've said it, and our line there hasn't changed since last week. As you know, at the European Council 10 days ago, the European Council asked us to put forward options. We are working on that, and with a focus on the reparations loan, and intensively also addressing the questions that have been asked at the European Council. Now I look at Balázs to see if there's anything else to be added at this point. At this point, we're still working on making sure that we can indeed address the financial needs of Ukraine, as has been also reiterated and confirmed in the European Council conclusions. So the methods, the vehicles to get there may still be under discussion, but there was a commitment, a reiteration of the commitment by the European Council to actually indeed address the financial needs of Ukraine in 2026 and 2027. Other questions? Yes, Vitaly.
And on energy, last week, Commissioner had meeting with his United States colleagues. They discuss Ukraine. Could you reveal some detail of this meeting? And they discuss the situation with consumption of Russian gas. Did you discuss how United States could help Hungary to stop buying Russian oil and gas? Thank you.
Looking at Eva to see if we have any readout of the meeting. We don't have further elements to share with you, Vitaly, regarding that meeting, but those are subjects that are part of the agenda, very topical, right, in terms of the energy needs, the sanctions on energy and their impact. So not to be excluded that this may be raised, but we do not have more concrete elements to share with you. Other questions? Yes, please.
There's a follow-up to my colleague's question. Valeria Pashko, Public Broadcaster of Ukraine. Today, Politica stated that Brussels fears the IMF could cancel aid to Ukraine unless the EU adopts the reparation loans. Is there really any kind of connections between financial aid from IMF and the EU financial aid to Ukraine? Thanks.
Okay, well, as said, we are working on really making sure that we can address the financial needs. That's the priority. And that's what has been discussed notably at the European Council and will be again discussed at the European Council in December. Now, the link with the IMF, I'd look into Balázs just to explain how this can be linked. But let us also reiterate that we're not there yet, and we're really working on making sure that we agree on the means that could address the commitment made by the European Council on meeting the financial needs of Ukraine. Balázs.
There's not much I can add. I can reiterate that work is ongoing. We have an invitation from the leaders to come with options, and we are working on these options with a clear priority being given to the reparation loan. And of course, there are contacts with other potential partners and institutions. And as regards the conditions that the IMF needs to have in place, I think you would need to contact the IMF. But of course, we are mindful of the broader context, and there are contacts with all relevant actors.
Good. Now to Balázs, since we have Balázs with us on the podium. Let's see. Not sure it's for Balázs. Momchil, you had been raising your hand for a while.
Yes. So my question is related to Lukoil. Do you hear me?
But we cannot see you, Momchil, and we need to be able to see you too.
So I don't know why.
I don't know either. Okay, while you try to sort out your camera, let's see if there are other questions in the room. Yes, let me see if there's anyone who hasn't asked a question yet. No, so we go for a second round for Jorge and then Jan.
Yes. Hello again. It's also on Lukoil. I'm not sure if it's the question that Momchil had as well, but given the impact of the sanctions that America has imposed on Russian oil companies, does the Commission still intend to table this proposal on tariffs on Russian oil that the President kind of like pitched or previewed some weeks ago when she met with Donald Trump? Is this still on the table for you, or do you think it's not relevant anymore? Thank you.
Yeah, well, for the moment, I haven't heard any link made between the sanctions by the US on Lukoil and our announced measures. So on this basis, my understanding is that we continue to work on what had been announced by the President. Should there be any change of plans, we will let you know, Jorge. Jan.
Yeah, a sprinkling of randomness. I'm not 100% sure what the question is for. It's about self-driving cars. Right. There was a speech exactly 1 month ago by the president in Turin about launching a network of European cities that will become test beds for European self-driving cars. I just was wondering whether there was any update regarding that network, because I couldn't find much in terms of who set it up, where these cities will be, what the makeup of these test beds would look like.
Thank you, Jan, for reminding us of the speech of the President in Turin. I think, indeed, 1 month ago, more or less. What can we say at this stage? Thomas, it's again for you on self-driving cars.
Thank you, Jan. On this specifically, not immediately, but more generally on self-driving cars, you will remember that on the 12th of September, the President also held the third strategic dialogue with the automotive industry, where, of course, we reaffirmed the need to act fast to implement the automotive industry action plan. Now, of course, technology also transforms mobility, and the Commission sees, of course, self-driving cars as part of the general competitiveness of our automotive industry, and this is why in that third strategic dialogue with the automotive industry, we also set up the European Connected and Autonomous Vehicles Alliance. And this one, EVP Virkkunen met on the 28th of October, where she agreed with the steering group to set up different working groups to create a harmonized framework for self-driving cars in Europe and, of course, to help our European startups in the sector to grow.
Thank you, Jen, for having allowed us to remind ourselves of what has been done on self-driving cars. Go ahead, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, to add to that, is this new alliance part of this strategy of creating this network of cities where self-driving cars will be tested, or is it something that should be read as separate?
As I was saying on Friday, everything we do is done with common sense, so we would merge both. Exactly what we're doing has a link, of course, and this alliance is really here with stakeholders, with the industry, to, of course, create the appropriate framework for our startups, so you can see this as being complementary to the other one that is coming later.
Good. Now, I don't see other questions in the room. I go back to Momchil. Momchil, how does your camera look like?
Oh, I think better now.
Yeah, it's better now.
So, hello. My question is related to Lukoil and to the US sanctions. You know, but Lukoil has a refinery in Bulgaria. And on Friday, the Bulgarian parliament temporarily banned the export of petroleum products to European Union and third countries at the same time, primarily of aviation fuel and diesel. Does it violate the EU rules for free movement of goods or not? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Mamshel. So it's a different angle to the question asked earlier by Jorge. Yes, Olaf.
Thanks, Mamshel, for your question. On this, we are in touch with Bulgaria and all member states to understand the full implications of the proposed sale of Lukoil's international assets, and we can't say more at the present time, but we'll come back to you if and when there's more to communicate.
Okay. Thank you, Olaf. And we have a question on the same topic there. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm taking the risk to look not well informed, but can you remember me why exactly Lukoil is not sanctioned under EU sanctions?
Thanks. Look, the decisions made concerning EU sanctions, I remind you that there have been 19 packages so far. They're based on, on the one hand, striking at the heart of the Russian economy in order that the Russian war machine will be weakened. On the other hand, we have to take into account economic and other strategic interests here in the EU. Plus, we have to take into account the political fact that any sanctions have to be agreed by unanimity. So, on that basis, we have included or not included various aspects in our sanctions packages so far.
Yeah, follow up.
Again, I already asked you this bilaterally. I think it was on Friday. But are you looking into the fact that Lukoil, the international section of Lukoil, has been sold to Swiss company Gunvor in Geneva? Is this anything that's in interest of the European Commission?
Thanks for the follow-up. Yes, of course, it's in our interest to understand the full implications of this proposed sale, and therefore, as I mentioned, we are in touch with all our member states here in the EU to understand what the implications will be. If there is any necessity to take further steps, we'll analyse that at the time. But right now, we're just in the kind of the analysis phase, if you like.
Good. Thank you, Olaf. I don't see any further questions in the room, which brings us to the end of the midday. Thank you for a very diverse set of questions. We covered a lot of ground and a lot of countries and regions in the world. Thank you for your interest, and see you tomorrow.